So after much hype, the Joy Business Financial Services Forum is over, but the conversation has just started. Joining me is Joy Business researcher Philip Namfori, who was there at that event. Great event it was.
Lovely, fantastic.
Yes,
I like the word you use. Yes.
It lived or outlived the hype.
Yes, no, Daryl. It was just too good. Very good discussions, good panelists, good discussions, a good audience, a good crowd, good questions. It was just, like a better word, lit.
All right. And so what were the highlights for you? What were the sticking points?
Okay, so we had the Deputy Minister of Finance, Charles Dubois. We had the Deputy Governor, Second Deputy Governor, and we had Mr. Alassane Ndani. He's the President of the Ghana Bankers Association. Each of them gave good points. We also had some other discussants, also like the CEO of Daylex Finance, Ken Thompson. Well, for me, I'll start with Charles Dubois. That's the Second Deputy Minister of Finance, and he spoke about the money that's coming from the World Bank to support the depositors of the savings and loans institutions when the cleanup gets to that sector. We've seen the cleanup in the banking sector. We're going to see it in the savings and loans and the microfinance. That's the non-bank financial institution sector. Why would the World Bank want to step in? The non-bank financial institutions, savings and loans, microfinance, fall under what we call microfinance. And that's a pro-poor intervention or policy supposed to provide credit to the poor or the needy in society. So, World Bank is focused on pro-poor interventions and policies. So, of course, they want to step in to make sure that that sector, its depositors are not hit as bad as it would if they weren't in. So, I'm sure going forward, we should see some, from what we're gathering, $150 million going to help depositors of that sector.
All right, so there were three areas tackled, policy, regulation, and practitioners. What can you say about those three areas? Because we got stakeholders from those areas as well.
Very good. So I'll start with the policy. That was the Minister of Finance, Deputy Minister of Finance. He just assured us that the government is going to put in the right measures to ensure that the financial services sector is on a strong footing. Yesterday in our discussion, we mentioned the budget, the 2018 budget, where they highlighted some things that we're going to make sure that our financial services sector is strong. From the practitioner side, that will be Mr. Alassane Ndani. Even Mr. Ken Thompson, CEO, he runs Daylex Finance. He also says, Mr. Alassane Ndani also says, the banking sector is safe. And he made a very good point. He says 80% of the loans in the sector are given by 20% of the banks. And these banks are strong. He used the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of the banks in the sector are giving 80% of the loans. And these 20%, from the president of the Ghana Bankers Association, he says they are strong banks. There's nothing for us to worry about. Then with regards to regulation, we had the Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. She says Bank of Ghana is going to go hard on institutions. Henceforth, they're going to enforce all their directives, especially the corporate governance, and fit and proper to the letter. They're not going to more or less do this with somebody else and try and treat other people fairly. No. Everybody's going to experience the same thing in order to put the sector on the strong footing. All
right, let's talk a bit more about the Q&A session and the issues that came up. What were the issues of concern to people?
Okay, so there was this question that came up about moral hazard. And essentially to explain that, I'll use an insurance example. If you go and get your car insured, you know that you've paid a big premium, comprehensive insurance, and you go and drive your car down the road and you mess it up. The insurance company will give you back your money. That's essentially what moral hazard is. In banking, if they give you money for a loan and you go and deal in something else other than the purpose than which you took the loan, that's moral hazard. So the person who posed the question, she's a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Fiado, and she says, what are they going to put in place to make sure that, okay, if banks go down again, or banks will not take risky practices, so that next time they're like, okay, if I go down, Bank of Ghana will come and help me out. And that's when the governor assured us that, the deputy governor assured us that all is going to be order because they're going to put their foot on the ground.
All right, and the Bank of Ghana sought to whip up the confidence of the public in the banking sector, and we have been doing some polling ourselves to gauge the level of confidence. What were the results of the poll?
Okay, so from the poll we put out yesterday, we had 100 votes, and the question was, have you lost confidence in the entire financial system as a result of the banking sector challenges? And 54% said no, and 46% said yes.
54% looks quite good.
Yes, quite good. From 100 people, quite good. And even in the forum, we asked the question. George Rafi, our moderator, asked the question, and everybody said yes. There's some confidence in the sector. And I'm sure going forward, with the right regulatory approach, we should see that the confidence will come back. Yes, it has dipped or waned a bit because of the challenges, but going forward, the regulator is assuring us, or all regulators are assuring us that all will be well.
All right. Whilst 54, is it 54?
54% said no.
It looks good, but there are still the 46% who are really not.
Yes, but
why do you think they're losing confidence? You know, the issue about the media and how we've treated this
exactly.
also came up.
It came up there too. Some of the discussants and panelists weren't too happy with some of the issues that they say we report on. So, for example, if we have gathered some information that a bank might go down, they, from what I gather, will prefer that we hold on to such information, because when you put it out there, people seem to rush, panic, call their MDs asking, is it your bank that's going down? Is it this bank that's going down? So, from what I gathered from some of these panelists, they want us to bridge the gap or strike a fine balance between our reporting and then the financial system.
And we're really getting some good feedback from people who follow the discussion on radio and on our Facebook platform. We just want to pull up some of the social media comments for you and what people had to say about the discussion that got underway in the morning. This one from Ajua Boatin said, the auditors of these failed banks must be held accountable as well. What kind of independent audit reviews were they providing? And we've got the Association of Auditors also coming in to say at a point that we have to review the work that was done by auditors, because some of these banks that went down had good books in quotes.
And Darryl, if I can just interject here, during the submissions, the Deputy Minister of Finance made mention of the fact that he was surprised that some audit firms or accounting firms had their names as auditors in the books of some of these banks that went down. And he also agreed with the fact that, yes, we need to really check the auditors.
Great. Let's just pull up one more comment, if you will, just to gauge the views of people. It said, this one said, what happens to the board members and the management of the financial institutions that have gone under? We had the central bank talk about the fact that the IOCO was receiving some documents of a sort, and that we're going to deal with the directors if and when they have evidence to prove that they maybe mismanaged things at the bank.
Absolutely right, Darryl. Absolutely right. The Deputy Governor says names have been forwarded, and in due course, prosecution will take place and people will be brought to book.
All right. Thanks very much indeed, Philip Namfori, bringing us the latest from the JoyBusiness Financial Services Forum.